Devin Haney gets dissed by Eddie Hearn. And I got to tell you, this came out on Twitter from a guy that was one of the bigger Devin Haney fanatics, talking crazy about Gervonta Davis, talking crazy about other fighters, Shakur Stevenson, and inadvertently put out a clip of Eddie Hearn talking real sly and real bad about Devin the Dream Haney and the fact that ain't nobody paying for that guy's fights. Not all of his fights, but they ain't paying for the fight that he has to have next, and explains why Devin Haney will be dropping that WBC belt. Let's talk about that in this video. Everybody wants to be a superstar. Everybody wants to say they're a superstar. Everybody wants to talk about how much money they make off the budget. But then reality hits and you realize, hey man, the PBC is probably right about some things. Paying people what they weigh and making them have to get, in order to get paid, you gotta sell tickets. Well, Eddie Hearn obviously is starting to shift into that model based off what he said about Devin the Dream Haney and what Devin will be doing after he fights Ryan Garcia in the Barclays Center in New York City, April 20th. Now, before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. It means an absolute huge amount to the channel. But let's get into this. Like I said, man, there's this guy. Shout out Jay on Twitter. Man, you're a hilarious dude. A guy that is a big Devin Haney fan. And let me tell you, nothing wrong with that because Devin Haney's a great fighter. All right. I talk about the business of boxing. I talk about the shenanigans of promotion and all of that because, hey, man, it's what's in our face every day. We get a lot more politics and a lot more talk about fights than we actually get fights. But that's just how it is because, you know, there's only one Saturday there's only 4 Saturdays in a month. Right. And so, hey, every day in between, hardcore boxing fans, and other interested people come by and we talk about it every day. So that's what it's going to be. So I don't fault him at all for, you know, doing what you do, doing what he's doing. Anyway, he put out this tweet that talked about how Devin Haney was going to Eddie Hearn talking about Gervonta talking about Devin Haney and how Devin Haney was going to be dropping his WBC title. Now, I suspect that people put that out because they thought, hey, we're going to 147, man, yay. But if you listen to it, you'll see what the man said was the reason why Devin is going to 147 is because ain't nobody going to buy. Nobody's going to pay for the fight for him in his next mandatory, which is Sandor Martin. He said that Sandor Martin was paid step-aside money, by Oscar De La Hoya and them to allow Devin Haney to fight Ryan Garcia. But now, when that fight's over, Devin's going to have to drop the WBC belt because he has to fight Sandor Martin, and nobody's going to pay for that fight. And he said, look, Devin Haney's trying to get big money. And he's going to have to fight for a itty bitty little, he said, a little bit of money against Sandor Martin. So how in the world is that fight going to happen? Now, for me, and I'm saying this, man, I know some of y'all don't like this, but I'm telling you, I've been saying this about Devin Haney. I've been saying this about Terrence Crawford, and primarily because a lot of you guys use these particular fighters to be the to basically to be your whipping, to be your bullwhip that you use against PBC fighters to try to make them look bad, right? Terrence Crawford against to make Jaron look bad. Terrence Crawford make Arrow look bad. Make anybody over there look bad. Obviously, Devin Haney against Gervonta Davis, right? But when you find out that two things happen. Number one, Devin Haney has his own co-promoter who is Eddie Hearn saying, man, look, dude, we're not going to pay for that fight. Now, mind you, the fight with Sandor Martin, that's a little bit of money. And saying, look at Bob, and Sandor Martin is with Bob Arum. So, and Bob Arum ain't paying a lot of money for that fight. So what you have is, you have Devin Haney going to have to give up the belt and go fight somebody else to get a bigger amount of money is what Eddie Hearn is saying. So all this talk about being a big superstar and all of that, if you can't find somebody to pay enough money for your mandatory because the guy's not going to sell, what does that say? You don't have that situation with Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis could fight Sandor Martin. And I guarantee you somebody's going to pay for that fight. Again, because the people are going to pay for that fight. You're going to get the ticket sales for that fight. Even against Sandor Martin, he's going to sell out a stadium against Sandor Martin. He's going to get pay-per-views against Sandor Martin. It's a reliable thing because it's real. He's not relying off the budget of the promoter. And right there, that tells you that Devin is relying on the budget of the promoter. And the promoter is deciding the value of that fight. So that's not making Devin look good. He's not the face of boxing doing that. People paid for Canelo Alvarez to fight Yildirim at 168 pounds. They paid for that fight. They paid for. They're going to pay for fights like Jaime Munguia and guys like that. Who I guess Jaime Munguia is probably a bigger name or definitely a bigger name rather than Sandor Martin. But you get my point. Also, when you look at Terrence Crawford, right? Big star. In order to get a fight, that's what everybody says. Big star, big draw. In order to get a fight at 154, he has to put in to be the mandatory. He has to force Sebastian Fundora to fight him. If they didn't have that mandatory there, he wouldn't be able to get a fight with Sebastian Fundora. He wouldn't have been without that mandatory there. He wouldn't have been able to get a fight with Tim Tszyu. So how are these guys, these big stars that you're talking about, that set themselves apart from everybody else? You're not. You're lifting these guys up because they're very good fighters. Now, don't get me wrong, man. If you're talking about what's going on in a fight with Devin Haney and Sandor Martin, man, give me Devin Haney all day. Terrence Crawford and Sebastian Fundora, give me Terrence Crawford all day. But that's not the subject that we're talking about. We're talking about the claims that people make about who the big names in boxing are and who fans really want to see. If everybody really wants to see Devin so bad, why don't people want to see Devin? Why would Eddie Hearn say that people don't want to see him against Sandor Martin and they won't pay for that fight? Come on, man. Give these people that are actually selling these tickets and doing these things the credit that they deserve, man. And stop trying to run these guys' names down and hype other people up in that aspect, right? And it even goes into fighting as well, but that's not the topic of this video. However, look, man, loyalty, that free agent stuff can sometimes come back and bite you. Eddie Hearn may not have appreciated the fact that, that he gets he does a fight with Regis Prograis and Devin Haney, but now Devin Haney wants to jump from him and then wants to go jump over there to Golden Boy Promotions. And then after he jumps to Golden Boy Promotions, he's going to want to jump back to him, or is he going to have to go jump back over to Bob Arum for a Sandor Martin fight, right? So, and Bob Arum is like you jumping all over the place, man. It's a very unreliable model of business if you're not Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez can do that because Canelo Alvarez really has the crowds to back that up, but man, nah, dog, I'm not feeling it. That's some real shaky moves. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.